So I did a journal based primarily off of the correspondence of a young man from Pennsylvania who was born in 1905, went to college in Huntington, Pennsylvania in 1923, 24, 25, 26, called Juniata College. And he had, in this collection of correspondence, over 500 letters from high school classmates, several girlfriends, some serious relationships, some friendships, some other boy classmates, male classmates that were involved in sports and activities. They did a lot of social activities and entertainment type of things. He was the president of a minstrel group where they went out and did shows all year long, singing and entertaining at different places. So he was a very active young man. I separated a lot of his letters and things into categories that I thought were interesting, and here are some of them. I have, like I said, over 500, probably around 500, and these are all from his sister Margaret, who has chicken scratch handwriting and is very hard to read her letters, but she writes the most often. His mother, his father, who owns a cigar manufacturing company. They make cigar boxes and cigars, and he will normally write on business letterhead. He has a brother, Bud. His name is Ray Philip Wiest. The gentleman who is the main character in this story, Victor Wiest, and so these are all his people. Bud, who's his younger brother. Now Margaret is his twin sister. Bud is his younger brother, and Carlos is an older brother. And sometimes Carlos also types out his correspondence, but sometimes he handwrites him as well. His grandparents would write to him, but his mother would write to him sometimes. She also has distinctive handwriting. This is not a family member. This is, I can tell by the handwriting. I've read all of these letters. And this girl's name is Rita. And he seemed to have dated Rita for a short while. Or months, I suppose. But Victor also kept a lot of his greeting cards. So here's a Valentine's card from his sister Margaret, who got married, and that story really kind of unfolds in these letters too. She married John Zug, and she dated several fellows in town. Prior to that, she would go on dates all the time and schedule dates weeks in advance and turn boys down that she didn't want to go out with or hadn't fallen for, as she put it. But this is from Margaret and Patty, who is Margaret's little girl. So they sent Uncle Victor a Valentine card that year. Here's the craziest color purple birthday card from Margaret again. But he kept almost, well, I don't know if he kept all of his Christmas cards, but these are all Christmas cards. Christmas. That's an invitation. Christmas. So those are all mostly Christmas cards. these are all from Effie Holstein. And when Effie bobbed her hair, there was quite quite a stir. Everybody talked about it. She got in trouble with her parents over it. So this was 1920. This was 1923 when she bobbed her hair. And so that was, you know, height of flapper society. But Effie wrote to Victor for years. So that's 1924. These are all 1924. So when they were in college, and their colleges must have been close, and she went, I'm not sure where she went to. It was a nurse's college. But interesting things about all of this correspondence is this is all the address that there was. So a mailing address was the person and the the city and the college. But it apparently always got to him. And no return address. There's Effie. There's Effie. She went to Hood College. There it is. And that would be all of the address you needed, apparently. And here is Rita's handwriting. And Rita, they must have dated over a summer, Rita and Victor. And then Victor moved away to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and she wrote to him. So she wrote to him quite a lot. I don't think he wrote back to her very often, because she starts almost every letter. Why haven't you written to me? It's been 2 weeks since I've heard from you. You've been gone for 5 weeks. I've only gotten 3 letters from you. It's been over a month since I heard from you. My parents don't understand why you don't write to us. Well, she eventually found out why he didn't write to her, because the person that she moved in with, the person that he moved in with, I guess he lived in a boarding house with the Top Millers. And these are all from the Top Millers. These are from Elizabeth, who was the young lady that was the daughter of the boarding house owner. And I guess they had quite the sordid affair, because in these letters, she definitely expresses her love to Victor, which nobody else really ever said, "I love you, Victor." But Elizabeth did. Elizabeth would close her letters with "I love you" in the end. But she had nice handwriting. They didn't all have nice handwriting. Like I said, Margaret and his mom had very bad handwriting. But these are all not necessarily from Elizabeth, who was the girl that he had this love affair with, but these are all having to do with finding out about her, and then the false alarm, which if if you can intuit what a false alarm would be, Elizabeth wrote to Victor expressing relief that she wasn't pregnant. And so there's a whole drama about that, and about her mother finding letters from Victor, which must have been pretty racy, because one of these letters is from Mrs. Topmiller that says, it's a scathing letter about how they trusted him, they thought the world of him, how could he do what he did, and he got an earful for that. Yeah, that situation. But really, I'll have to find the last, not the last, is it the last straw? The closure to this story. Okay, so I found this letter as I was reading. I read every single piece of correspondence in here. So I found this one, and they weren't really in order. They were just kind of shipped to me in a box. And these people had been on an extremely, basically loving relationship. The boarding house lady, her name is Jessie Top Miller. She was, she really liked Victor. He was a sweetheart, apparently. They grew to love him. She says in one of her letters in here, I don't know why we loved you so much. We really never felt like this about other boarders. I don't think I can rent your room out. No one's gone in there since you left. We haven't opened the door. We all cried, you know, when you were gone. And then, so this letter, which came to Victor when he had moved out of town and had been gone for over a year, and he's in Columbia, South Carolina, working in construction. And so I don't know where he lived, but he got a lot of his mail addressed to the company. So this is from Mrs. Ben Top Miller. Now every other letter she's addressed to him has always been your mom, your Kentucky mom. But this one is addressed to Dear Sir. Your letter came yesterday. I didn't deliver it. I burned it. Elizabeth was married Thursday night at 8 p.m. Respectfully, Miss Jess. I am sending you the clipping. So the clipping is of the Top Miller Hancock wedding that he had just missed. His old flame, who he never wrote to. I mean, he stopped writing. He was notoriously bad returner of correspondence. So everybody wrote to him, and the first thing all his letters always said, "Why don't you write to me? I bet you're surprised that I'm writing to you because I haven't heard from you in so long." It's always, "I never hear from you." But this whole clipping is about how wonderful the wedding was and what everybody wore and who were the bridesmaids and who played music and who sang. And it was, I mean, I don't know how many clippings a family gets of the newspaper announcement, but she sent him a clipping. And so I thought that was quite awesome. This was typical of him, and he had various other letters that were that responded to him. "Oh, I haven't heard from you in so long. I'm sorry I can't meet you this weekend," or whatever, "but I got married." So he would basically, I think, because I've read all these letters, I think what he did was he would write to all his old flames when he was coming home. If he had lost his job, or he was going to come home for the summer and he had been gone for 6 months or a year or 2 years, he would write to these women back home and kind of sending out feelers, I think, because he got 2 or 3 of these letters that say, "Oh, I've moved on. Oh, I'm engaged. I just got married." Or if it's intercepted by their mom, they never see the letter that he sent them, sending out feelers. So this is a story, and not a not very appropriate letter about the prostitute in town and who goes there and what happens. These are the emotional letters from the girls that he toys with. He toys with girls. These are letters that have photos in them. Photos of Margaret's baby. There's photos of 3 men that I don't think I can identify. But, and this one. And I don't know who it is because it's not labeled. but her hair is bobbed. So I don't know if it's Effie or Margaret. I don't know if Margaret ever bobbed her hair, but there's nothing. I don't know. I can't tell if it's scratched out. It looks like it says birthday, but I don't think it says a name. So I don't know. We could guess about who this is, but it wasn't in Huntington. It wasn't in a letter from somebody. It was loose. But there's other photos. Victor's mother, she was sick. She was sick a lot. So Margaret would write, "Mother's sick. I would go back to college this week, but I have a feeling they would just call me back in a few days." She was in the hospital for 12 weeks at one point, and one of his other girlfriends, which was at nursing school, wrote to him and said, "I'm coming home. Do you want me to try to nurse your mother? Maybe I could cheer her up. I could at least try." And, 12 weeks is a long time to be in the hospital. Hopefully she'll be on the mend soon. So there was just a lot of letters that mentioned his mother and his mother's illness. And she did pass away in 1928, and I looked that up online. She died of chronic enteritis, and I'm not really sure what that is, but in the correspondence it was always about she's got headaches, she can't get out of bed, she's got a temperature, the doctor isn't concerned about it, but Dad and I are. And so it was interesting, really, too, that from 1926 to like 1931, there is no correspondence. So I don't know if he was in town and nobody wrote to him because they could go talk to him and visit him. Not everybody was in town, though. And so I don't know if he was home when she passed away, but there's no correspondence around the time of her death. So there was apparently an accident. He had an accident, and I think it hurt one of his friends, injured one of his friends. One of the letters is from one of his male friends. I can't remember which one, but it said, "My shoulder's healing. I still can't work, but I should be better soon." The other letters say, people are talking about it now, but like everything, they'll forget eventually. Margaret says, "I really hope nothing." I think this is an example of Victor's handwriting, and they're notes. Notes, I think, for class of some sort. So he's writing notes, I think, in school. And there's a list of people, I guess. I always wonder if, oh yeah, here's like Socrates. And so who knows? I think maybe it's a class of some sort that he's taking notes for, but I think this is his handwriting. And he was part of the press club at Juniata. So that really is the story behind where the most of the papers in this journal came from. So here on the back is business correspondence that he got in 1931. I did a collage of correspondence from just various people. Margaret, for instance, this is a letter from Margaret, and it's decoupaged, or it's collaged onto there as a big collage in the background that I used. Here's her name, Margaret. So here's correspondence. Here's a Thanksgiving card. I'm not sure who this is. Oh, Snip. That's Margaret. I guess that's her nickname. And so this is fully dedicated to Victor Wiest, who I got a lot of his correspondence from his youth, from his college days anyway. Looks like he passed away in 1969 on September 11th. And Margaret didn't pass away until 2001, and she would have been 96. But I couldn't find anything else about her or the rest of the family. Effie Holstein or Rita or Elizabeth from Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I guess the last, oh yeah, he was not good with money, and his dad bailed him out apparently a couple times. And so letters from his dad that say, who do you owe? Where do I pay them? He got a letter from his older brother that said, you really did a lot of bad things, and my advice would be to talk to Dad before you get in trouble in the future. And this is the checks left over from the bank account that his dad closed. His dad closed his bank account and said, don't write any more bad checks, basically. So an interesting, such an interesting fellow. And I have so much cool stuff. Oh, and the invitations. The invitations he got, wedding invitations. This is when Effie graduated from Hood College in 1926. And there's her little card. Do you remember when you were in high school and you sent these out? Oh. So that's 1924. This might have been his graduation announcement, and he had extras that he didn't send out. So he's got 2 of these that are extra. No envelopes. I think this was an announcement for an invitation to a Christmas party that Effie had. And this is his younger brother's high school graduation. Bud, they called him Bud. His name was Philip. Ray, they called him Ray or Bud. But there's his announcement. So much cool stuff. This I call Dead and Buried because they would write letters and say, we've gotten a lot of snow, the radio hasn't been working, Louise died on Thursday and was buried on Friday, so and so was. So it was always, okay, this is from Bud. Dear Victor, please send my cap home at once, as I am very much in need of it. Aunt Emma Bryson died and will be buried on Saturday morning. And it was always regular business, and then so-and-so died and will be buried. So-and-so died and was buried. So, this is the life of, a glimpse of the life of people in the early 20s. I hope you found it as interesting as I did. If anybody would like for me to read these letters to you, let me know. I think I picked this out because this envelope has this. They had these linings. But look how pretty that is. And it's like shiny. Super pretty. The letter is nothing important, but it's just like a regular, you know, the weather is this and I'll be visiting then kind of letter, but the envelope is so pretty, and this is made of something like some kind of fiber. Really pretty. She must have gotten it like for Christmas or something, because these are all right after Christmas. But this is Helen. But I thought that the stationery was very interesting. This is a swatch of fabric that perhaps Mr. Wiest would like to have shirts made from. For $2.45. with a laundered collar. Oh, and this one is Dartmouth College entrance paperwork from 1925. So this is where it says you're going to need to meet some criteria to get into Dartmouth. But here's the paperwork. Application for admission. An index card with typed out categories for information. And the application. Oh, that's so cool. And, oh, this Valentine's card. This tiny envelope with a big fat letter in it. And it's just regular stuff in the letter. How are you doing? We're having a basketball game Friday. This is a telegram from Effie for Valentine's Day, 1926. So there's all of that interesting information, background on this journal.